Hello everybody, welcome to Deluxe Collectibles, and today we're going to be going over some brand new LEGO Ninjago news regarding a new poster that was released for the Island 45-minute special, and this poster is very similar to the original one that we had released, but that one was technically not an official reveal from LEGO, so there have been some tweaks that have been made to this new poster, and I thought it would be an interesting topic to kind of go over these sort of changes and analyze them as well, and just kind of discuss my thoughts on some of them, and if there's any new information that we can take away from any of these changes. I thought that would be a bit of a fun video to do, so I hope you do go on to enjoy, and without further ado, let's get straight into it with the changes. Alright, so to begin here, we're going to start with one of the most major changes that I was able to spot on this poster, and that is that in the original one, we can see Lloyd, of course, directly in the center of it there, but he is not holding anything in his hand. But then if you take a look at the new poster, you can see that he is holding his dowel blade right here, and that is one that you're actually able to purchase on the LEGO store as an actual like foam weapon that LEGO sells. So I think that's pretty cool that now we see it integrated into this poster here, and I think it honestly looks fantastic. I really do love the design of it and the look of it. I think that looks really great, and it adds a little bit more. It fills the space right there, so it looks a little bit less awkward there, as if Lloyd's just kind of turning his head at nothing. So I think that's pretty cool, and I like the addition quite a bit. Then if we move on to the next change here, and I would say the other most major one that I've seen people discussing is Nia, and specifically on her face. You can see her mouth has been changed and altered there. You can see in the original one, it almost looks like a bit of a 3D mouth, and it's definitely quite interesting. Honestly, when I first looked at this original poster, I didn't even notice that or think it felt like odd or anything, so I don't know if it was a necessary change, but it's definitely a fine one. If you look at the new mouth, I think it looks a little bit more natural now when you do a side-by-side comparison, so it does make sense why they would make this change or alteration. But still, I don't think it was anything that was terrible about the poster, but still, it's a cool little change that people were able to spot. Now the next change that I was able to spot here is directly at the bottom of the poster, and you can kind of see where like the leaves are there, parts of the jungle, but on the original poster you can see that there appears to actually be the toes of the jungle dragon, which I thought was a really cool thing to kind of have on the poster. They're just teasing it a little bit and maybe hinting towards why Lloyd is kind of looking back there, because maybe he hears something rustling in the leaves over there. But now, interestingly enough, on the new poster they've actually completely remove that from it, so I'm honestly quite curious why they decided to do this, because honestly I thought it was a pretty cool addition there. Maybe they just don't want anyone to kind of know that there's going to be a dragon here. If you haven't watched any of the trailers or seen the sets, then maybe you can go in with a bit of surprise, but honestly that's going to be a very small amount of people who don't know about the jungle dragon, so it just seems a little bit odd. Maybe they just wanted to clean it up a bit more, and it gives that more like clean aesthetic, I suppose, but still I think it's a bit of an odd change and a weird one for sure. Now another change that we have here, we're going to go through a few of the quicker ones, just the small changes before we kind of address the golems in the middle, because that's definitely where the most changes and alterations have been made. And you can see with Kai and Jay, you can kind of see some flies above their heads, and those have actually kind of been changed a little bit with like where they're positioned, so I thought that was kind of interesting. I know it's a very small thing, but you can also kind of see on Kai's outfit as well, on his torso, it looks a slightly bit different. It might just be kind of like the way that they've rendered it out on this poster, because you can just see on the overall poster it just has a different sort of look to it and aesthetic, so that might have just been an effect of that and not actually something like intentional where it was like exactly being changed for that purpose. But still, it's definitely pretty interesting and just one of the smaller changes on the poster. Now another quick change that I just wanted to mention here is one on the top left of the poster. You can kind of see that there's a little bit of a difference in how the trees are kind of formed there with the branches and the leaves, so I found that quite interesting, how they've just kind of changed some of that up and given it a little bit of a different design, a bit of an alteration there, so I'd say that's pretty interesting. But now let's move on to the golem. So now we're going to address, of course, the elephant in the room right here, the giant golem that is definitely the centerpiece of this poster, and there are a ton of changes that was made to this. I mean, you can just kind of see it just at a glance. These ones are pretty noticeable. We'll start from like kind of like the middle of the golem there, and you can kind of see that some small alterations have been made to kind of the red sort of pattern that's going on with its like face there. You can see that there's been a bit more detail added to this one, and you can even see above like the third one's head. You can see a little bit of red on top of there, almost kind of like looking like a mustache to me. I know it's not meant to be that, but that's kind of what I would compare it to. And on the original one, you could just see some more like kind of like moss on it, I suppose. So that's kind of what was placed on the original, but now it's been changed a little bit, cleaned up a bit, I suppose. And then if we move just right up, you can see on the top of the actual golem here, there's been a few little things changed there. It's mostly the same, but you can see a bit more moss on the original one, and on the newer one, it, well, coincidentally enough, looks newer, I suppose, because it doesn't look like there's as much growth on it. So definitely quite interesting. Then if we move to the left of the actual thing, you can see a few changes with the swords that it's holding. They're a little bit less mossy. I would say that's kind of the main change here, is that there's not as much moss on the actual golem here. It's a little bit more cleaned up, a bit more shiny, I suppose you could compare it to. So I found that quite interesting. Then on the right side, you can see a bit of change on the actual hands there. You can see just a little bit of a difference there. I actually think on the bottom hand that it actually on the original one looks like a little bit of a face. You can kind of make out the two little eyes there at the top of the fist right there, and then kind of like a little bit of a mouth with the indent there. So I think that's kind of funny, but they've like completely removed that from the new one. So definitely quite an interesting change there. A little bit of changes on what I suppose call like the shoulder pads, where you can kind of see that there's more moss on that. So they've kind of just moved the moss around, I suppose, and added it to different parts of the golem. So definitely quite interesting. I just like seeing these little like changes that they've made, and I'm really interested kind of why they decided to make these changes, if maybe it makes it a little bit more accurate to its actual appearance within the show. So I'm kind of interested about that, or if they just thought it would make it look a little bit cleaner, which I do have to say, overall, out of both of the posters, I would say that I do like the new one a lot more. I definitely like the improvements that they made, like adding Lloyd's Dow blade there, and then also changing up Nia as well, and then just the overall sort of like rendering of the poster just looks a lot cleaner, I would say a lot more HD, and the colors pop a little bit more in my opinion. The only downside I would say, and of course these are all nitpicks honestly with everything, even if they're positive or negative, it's just stuff that I'm pointing out that probably nobody is going to give a second thought to, because of course it's just the poster. There really isn't too much that you can go into here. Of course it's not going to actually affect the show, but I still find it to be an interesting topic to sort of discuss. But I would say the one downside of one of the changes they made is definitely removing the jungle dragon's toes there. I think that was really cool, kind of a little hint there for the poster, but you know, it's alright. I suppose it makes it look a little bit cleaner on the bottom, but yeah, it's definitely some interesting changes that were made with this new poster. Alright, so that's going to conclude the video here. I know I spent a whole video just talking about some few minor changes to the poster, but if you did enjoy or found anything of interest from this video, I would highly appreciate it if you could leave a like, also subscribe as well. If you'd like to check out some of my other content, I promise all of it is not just analyzing small changes between Ninjago posters. I actually go a lot more in depth with other topics as well, so if you'd like to check any of that out, it would be highly appreciated. And be sure to let me know as well if you're kind of a geek like this and you like to analyze stuff like this, and let me know if I missed out on anything else major that was changed from the poster, and just let me know your thoughts on it as well. Which one do you prefer and why? So let me know all of that down below. I hope you did enjoy this video, so thank you so much. I'll see you all next time, and always remember, keep on collecting.